Okay, these video recordings are for students that are not in class to receive the presentation of the instruction, and I'll try to take you through everything in the formative that you're going to need to know to get yourself a really good score. The topic of this lesson is something called solving rational equations, and so we are looking at rational equations, which are different from rational expressions because equations will have an equal sign. That's the equal part of the word equation. And so instead of simplifying or simply carrying out an operation, we're actually looking for a solution. And the directions would say something like solve or find the value of x, which would be different from, say, simplify or perform the indicated operation. So perform adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. What is critical to remember here is what a solution is. So if you're not really clear on what a solution is and you think a solution is just an answer, well, answer could be a lot of things. An answer could be a graph. An answer could be, I don't know, like some kind of picture that you draw. A solution is the value or values, okay, depending on whether or not you have more than one, the value of the variable that makes the equation true. And it's so important to know that because that is always true no matter what, whether you're talking about Algebra 1 or Algebra 2 or pre-calculus or anything else. If you're asked to solve an equation, this is what you're looking for. Okay, so that makes the equation true. And I believe on your formative, you're going to want to fill in value, variable, and true. And I say that because that is going to open up different strategies that you have to answer the question. And we're going to take a look in this first video at what are the strategies that are available to you for figuring out the solution to an equation. But remember, if you have an expression, if you have something that does not have an equal sign, then there is nothing you can do to make it true. True would have to be something like 5 equals 5. And without an equal sign, you don't have that. You would just have the number 5, which is neither true nor untrue. So let's take a look more closely at these different strategies. And as you're looking at the formative, there's like a mix and match for what the different strategies are and what they mean. But I do want to look in the video at them more closely, and we'll do this in class as well. We'll look more closely at what the strategies mean. So one of your options here is to simply solve the equation algebraically. And that is often a great option. And when you're taking an open response test, that is usually what you're expected to do. So you're expected to carry out the algebra steps to solve it from scratch. And sometimes that is the best method. So the example equation that I'm going to look at is 2x plus 3 equals 7, which is a pre-algebra or algebra 1 level question, but all of this works and it serves as an illustration. So what we're going to do is work the algebra steps for isolating the x. And so I see that I'm adding 3, and I will undo adding 3 by subtracting 3. So then I end up with 2x is equal to 4, and then that is multiplication right there. And I will undo multiplication with division, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. And if you were staring at a linear equation, this is probably your best bet. You do not want to kick over to Desmos to do this unless you are desperate or there's something about the equation that makes it particularly challenging for you to solve. But for most of you, solving a linear equation, you're going to get to where you want to go faster by just doing it out by hand. So that's one of your options, is to just solve the equation. In this class this year, we've studied a lot of different kinds of equations. All right, well, if you're wondering why my face is now in a different location, it's because I clicked over to this slide and was staring at Wikipedia. So I had to go fix that. It turned out I couldn't get there from here. All right, so our second strategy that we have for solving equations is to graph them. And if you're looking at your formative, it says, like specifically, we graph it as a system. And so if you were staring at this question and you did not know how to do the algebra, or for whatever reason you are very unsure about it, you can opt to graph it. Now, again, I hope you would not do this, but the way you would do this is you're going to take each side of the equation and graph it separately, and you're looking for the points of intersection. And so I highly recommend that you do this with y equals. It is true that if you just type in 2x plus 3, it will graph it as a function. But when you put in the y equals, you get a couple of extra things that it will do that it does not do when you just type in the expression. And one of those things is sometimes it will show you the point of intersection between two graphs, which it does not do if you just type in a number. All right, and then I would graph the right side. So we do y equals the left side, and then we do y equals the right side. And of course, I can't see that. Y equals 7 is off the screen, so I need to zoom out to find that, and then I can hover over that. And you're looking for the x coordinate. You know that the y coordinates are going to be the same. That's what how you're setting up the graph. So you're saying, where are these two both equal? And they're equal when x is equal to 2. Not when y is equal to 7. So remember that you're taking the x coordinate, and we already established on the previous slide that the answer to this problem was x equals 2, and indeed it is x equals 2. So that is the strategy we're going to be focusing on today, and that is good for all of your equations. Oh, I need to stop my recording and starting it again. Okay, this is probably fairly smooth for you guys, but it's really bumpy on my end because of Wikipedia. That'll show me. All right, so the third choice that you have, or third option that you have, is to plug in the answer choices. And that can work really, really well, particularly if you've got a calculator, but not necessarily a graphing calculator. So in a multiple choice test, you actually have maybe 4 or 5 options for what the answer might be, and that's going to narrow it down. You just have to figure out which one of those works. So I want to show you an example of what doesn't work and what does work. So we already know that the answer to this particular equation was x is equal to 2. But let's say these are your answer choices and you want to figure out, is 2 my answer? So what you would do is you would plug in 2 for the x. And so we would have 2 times 2 plus 3 is equal to 7. 2 times 2 is 4. And 4 plus 3 is 7. And that, of course, is a true statement. So that's what we mean when we say look for a true statement. And it goes back to the definition. You've got to know what you're looking for. What would it look like if you tried something that wasn't true? Well, you want to know if x is a solution. And so you would plug your x in for, or 3 in for x. And 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 plus 3 is 9. And that is what we would call in math a false statement. 9 does not equal 7. And that's how you know that 3 is not an answer choice. So with this strategy, you would cycle through your 4 or your 5 answer choices, and you would plug them in, and you would do just what I did, but you'd do it on Desmos probably, or on a handheld calculator. And you're just looking for that true statement. When you find the true statement, then you know that you found what the solutions are. So those are your 3 main strategies, and which strategy is the best strategy is going to vary from student to student and from particular problem type to particular problem type. Best to know yourself and what you're good at and what tools you have at your disposal.